Good morning and welcome to Money Truth Moments with our very own Money Whisperer, Judy Copenbarger. How are you, Judy?
I'm fine. I am doing really great, really excited about the new year coming and about the holidays that we're in the middle of. And wow, what a year it's been. How are you?
I'm doing great. Same thing, exactly. It's been great holidays. I look forward to what this 2022 is going to bring us, and more excited about today's show because it's all about planning about 2022. So,
That's right.
folks, thank you for joining us this morning. If you're not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.com. You'll be able to find a wealth of information, great resources, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the show. But hey, we have a very jam-packed show. It's just an amazing show to prepare you guys for next year. So I don't want to take too much of your time. And what do you say we just jump right into it?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, so folks, make sure you have pen, you have paper, you are ready to go. And I'll let Judy take over now.
All right. So we have been studying the Copenbarger method. And if you'll recall, it is ABCDE: assess, balance, connect, deliver, and evaluate. And that is the Copenbarger method, the process tried and true that will help you get your finances in perfect order and then keep them that way. So the A stands for assess. You need to really take a really good picture of where you are right now. What do I have that's working? What do I have that's not working? Be honest about that when it comes to finances. So you've got everything that you need in front of you, and you can create your plan. B is balance, and that is where you connect what you can afford time-wise, what you can afford money-wise with what you'd like to do. So it has to be realistic. It has to be doable. The third thing is to connect. How will I get there? Do I need to hire somebody? Do I need to make a list? Do I need to have a conversation with someone that might be difficult? What is it that I need to do? Do I need to get a CPA or hire an attorney? Where do I even start? That's your connection. Delivery is when that occurs. Maybe you needed to put some insurance in place. The delivery is when the policy shows up on your door and it's in force. And then evaluate. You want to ask yourself, did I actually get where I wanted to go? Did the execution occur? And when you were evaluating, you got the result, the outcome that you wanted. That's your ABCs. That's your Copenbarger method and your planning. So today I wanted to give you some samples of what that might look like. So the first thing to do is identify the pillar of finance that you want to work on. So when we're looking at the areas, you've got taxation, you've got legal, you've got investments, insurances, and then you have the cash flows and cash reserves. So your financial pillar, for example, might be insurances. The next one that you might see is investments. The next one that you might see is legal. So let's take a look at some specifics. As you're planning for 2022 to get the super, super powerful outcome that you're looking for, you want to focus on one pillar at a time. And this will be your roadmap for this brand new year. So the next pillar will be quarter one. So let's take a look at some sample things that you could do in quarter one. When it comes to investments, you might choose an advisor. If you need a CFP, which is a certified financial planner who can help you holistically with all of your finances. An AIF is an investment or an accredited investment fiduciary. That's someone that by law is paid to look out for your interest and not just sell you stuff. And then you might need a broker. You might need someone from which you can acquire investments, mutual funds, or put together a bond or stock portfolio for you. The next thing that you could do in the area of insurance in quarter one is choose your agent. And what I recommend for you here is that you choose someone who is independent or work with an FMO. That's a field marketing organization. You go directly to the source. You save a lot of money on premiums when you do that rather than dealing with retailers. And then the one thing that you can do in quarter one next would be under estate planning or legal would be to vet an attorney. So find an attorney that is a good fit for you. You might ask for referrals from your friends and family. I don't recommend that you let your fingers go walking through the yellow pages. You really don't know what you're going to get. And basically, what you're buying is the advertising dollars that they put out. That doesn't mean an advertising attorney is a bad attorney, but you just don't know based on that. So you want to get good referrals from people that you trust who've had a great experience, and then look at how they approach their business. And this is something that you can look back into other segments to learn when you're vetting a CPA or an attorney or an insurance agent or any new person that's going to serve you in your financial capacity. You want to make sure there's a great alignment. And we have a 4H method of doing that: their head, their heart, their hands, and how. So you want to make sure they don't even have good book learning and education and credentials, but they understand you. They get you. They get your family. They know what you're trying to do here on the planet. And so if you have an alignment with that, you have the right staff, the right breadth, the right geography, and everything that's ideal for you, for them to serve you perfectly, then you've got a good fit. So look up the 4H method. That will help you when you're looking to choose an independent agent for insurance, when you're looking to choose an attorney to serve you for legal documents for your entities and your estate planning, things like wills, powers of attorney, and trusts. And then when you're choosing an advisor that's going to be handling your cash and making your money grow for you. So those are things that you could do as a sample in quarter one. Next, let's take a look at quarter two. So in the area of investments, there are some things that you can do in quarter two. One of the things that you could do is implement the investments that you need. Are they going to be employer or non-employer related? And by employer related, I mean it's something that you do at work, like it's got a payroll deduction to it. You never miss the money because it never comes to you. It goes directly into your accounts. And that would be something like a deferred compensation or deferred comp package. It might be something like a 401k or a 403b. And it sounds like a lot of letters and numbers and acronyms here, but what we're doing is just using the code number of the provisions that IRS has set forth that allows us to take advantage, tax-wise, take advantage of some of these programs. Next, what you might look at under the area of insurance is something you can do in the way of applying for insurances. So you could dedicate April, May, June of this coming year and just buckle down and get it done. So when you apply for example, health insurance, long-term care insurance, life insurances, those things are all going to be related to your health. The risk that the company's taking on has to do with how healthy you are or how alive you are. And so there's a process to those applications that is not simple and it's not quick. So they want to know your family history. They want to know if you're involved in any dangerous activities that might shorten your life. They want to know if you're walking around with diabetes or a history of cancer or any heart or lung issues. They're looking for things like that in assessing your health to determine the risk factor. And that's how the premium will be determined. So sometimes you might be getting insurance for a buy-sell agreement, something that you're doing with your partners at work to make sure the sustainability of your business is sound. And for that, they're going to want to see, this is the insurance company, right? They're going to want to see your financials. How strong is the company? Where is the money? What does the projection look like for the company's success in the future? So all the business that goes with applying for these kinds of insurances doesn't happen by Tuesday. It doesn't happen right away. So you're going to need some time. And if you have a mindset that quarter two is the quarter you're going to dedicate to all of the process that goes with these insurances, you'll be in good shape. And by summertime, you'll have everything done. So just remember, it's a process and it could take weeks, maybe even months for some of those health-related insurances. Now, it's a lot easier to get, truck insurance on your trucks at work, or to cover your home insurance and make sure that's appropriate, or to make sure that you have tort liability protection, like an umbrella policy. So things like that will be a little bit quicker in terms of process. But if you put it all into one quarter and my recommendation is Q2, you'll be in good shape and you know by summer that you're perfectly covered. The next thing that we could look at in the area of estate planning or legal is that you are in the process of creating a plan. And just like the insurances, make this a timeline. So it's not something where you have one meeting with an attorney and all of a sudden you know exactly the perfect outcome and the answer to all the questions for your estate plan. It is a process. So you want to form your plan, execute any necessary documents, and if you plan on doing that in Q2, again, by summer, you're going to be home free. The next quarter we're going to look at is now Q3. Now that we've done these things, we've hired the right people, we have a plan in place, we've applied for all the insurances, for example. In Q3, what's left to do? Well, first, let's take a look at the investments. So what I'd like you to consider doing, now that everything is set up, your payroll deductions are happening at work, if you've set up something outside of work, like an IRA or an investment program that you're putting money into every month, challenge yourself to take it up one tick. So at this point, you have maybe invested 4, 5 months, maybe even 6 months, and you're not missing that money. You might have felt a little tight at first, but you've learned to work within the new constraints of cash. So I challenge you to, in Q3, raise by at least 1% the amount that you're saving. And you probably won't miss that either. Maybe you could even go 2%. So challenge yourself to increase whatever you're saving and contributing to yourself every month in Q3. Now let's look at the insurance next. As you are beginning to pay premiums and implement your payments, you're going to start getting into the habit of an automatic premium payment plan. So when you first set up the insurance, you might have had to write a check or draw funds in one fell swoop, but you want to drop into a very comfortable automated way to pay your premiums. For example, auto insurance is often quarterly paid. It could be monthly paid. If it's monthly paid, make it easy on yourself and set it up so every month on the same date of the month, maybe 5 or 6 days after your paycheck shows up, it goes straight in there and you don't even miss it. If it's quarterly, you might have to pay a little bit more attention to it, but you can either calendar it or set it up as auto pay if it's allowed. It might cost you a couple of bucks to do that, but for the convenience and the assurance that you'll never miss a payment, it's definitely worth it. So make the premium payments simple and implement anything that's not already automated in Q3. Next, I have a recommendation for you for Q3 in estate planning. Consider executing the plan that you have in place. And if you have created an entity that owns your property or an entity that owns your cash accounts or investment accounts, maybe you've set up a trust for your family or a trust for your business. If you've done that, Q3 is the quarter. You want to make sure that all that work you've done, all the time you've spent, all the money you probably spent to put it together, you want to make sure those documents are working for you. So you want to properly fund your trust, properly fund your entities, like your LLC, your partnership, or your corporation. And what I mean by fund is you're not paying for it again. What you're doing is actually making sure that the entity properly owns the assets that you are putting in them. So you want to make sure if you have a home that should go in your trust, you have a deed that represents that. If you have an LLC that owns properties, you want to have an assignment of the LLC interest to your trust and make sure the deeds are properly recorded. So it's very important to follow through and make sure that the assets that you have are properly created. And Q3 is the perfect time to do that.
Excellent, Judy. And I think right now what I'd like to do is welcome folks again to our show. It's Money Truth Moments with Judy Copenbarger. If you're not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.com. Judy's been discussing the roadmap for your future of New Year 2022. So make sure that if you're just joining us, you have to go back and take a look at what we've discussed. We'll briefly review it before we get to quarter four. But before we do that, I would like for you to take an opportunity to share with folks what are the great resources that they can find on your website, please.
Yeah, anytime you're doing planning, and particularly with an overwhelming area of life like money, like finances, it's really nice to have a roadmap. It's really nice to have information that helps you navigate all of that. A lot of ways you can go wrong, right, in finance. So we don't want that to happen. So we have created for you at judycopenbarger.com a website full of videos, full of articles that will help you in every area of finance. It might be legal. It might be taxation. Tax is a big one that we want to avoid. It might be investments. It might be cash flows, insurances. All the areas of finance are handled there. And with primer level all the way to graduate level information, you can learn enough to know not only what you need to know, but what you didn't know. So you can ask all the right questions of the professionals that will be helping you, of the subject matter experts that you're going to be choosing to help you do these things. And if you're trying to do it on your own, don't. Even if you have a 30-year background in education and finance, there's going to be something that you miss because it's your own stuff. In law, we often talk about when an attorney, hires themselves, they try to do it themselves. They have a fool for a client. And it's so true. You want to have at least one other pair of expert eyes looking at everything you do to make sure it's optimized and coordinated. So one of the most special things that you'll find on judycopenbarger.com is a link that will take you directly to the Money, Truth, and Life online mastery program. And that program will go through all of the pillars of finance with all kinds of videos. It's actually courses put together to teach you everything you need to know about personal finances, so you know what's available, what to avoid, and where there might be some areas that you want to navigate well for your family that you didn't even know existed before. Should I have a stock or a bond, and why? I mean, how would I choose?
Right.
Should I have a 401k or should I have an IRA? How do I choose? So it answers all those questions, and it's all right there at judycopenbarger.com.
All right, folks, excellent. And I appreciate you sharing that. Make sure that you do take advantage of that. It's not going to cost you anything but your time. And I think your time is well worth you getting some of these free resources as well, too. So, excuse me, with that said, we've been talking about the roadmap for your new year. And here's a sample that Judy has created for you guys. It covers up 4 quarters that are coming up. We just covered the financial pillar. We talked about the investments, the insurance, and the estate planning, and what you need to do in quarter 1, what you need to do in quarter 2, and finally, what you need to do in quarter 3. So now we're going to begin with quarter 4.
Absolutely. So in quarter 1, you chose the people to help you. In quarter 2, you started the planning process. You applied for insurance. You started putting together your legal documents, things like that. In quarter 3, you challenged yourself to save a little bit more money in those investments, even if it's only 1%. In quarter 3, you also made sure that everything was automated and simple and fully funded when it comes to the estate planning. So in quarter 1, this is the wrap-up quarter, right? This is going to be October, November, and December of next year. So we're looking a year ahead. This is the outcome that we've waited for, that we did all of this work for. So in quarter 4, for example, in the area of investments, you can plan for any non-qualified taxation that's available for you. And what I mean by that is you may have bought or sold some investments in real estate or in stocks or mutual funds, where if you sell them, you can take advantage of the tax, like washing the capital gains tax out, where the sales and the buys are lined up to zero out your capital gains tax. There are so many things that you can do in the non-qualified area. Another thing that you could do is consider end of the year contributions for charities, which is very helpful for the bottom line of your taxes. And any other contributions, if you can make more contributions to your deferred comp, if you can put more into a retirement plan like an IRA, you can lower your tax bill by putting money from one pocket to the other. And then you'll have deferred tax gains over the year. So many things that you could do to plan for taxation. Next, let's take a look at the insurance areas. As an example, one activity that you might consider for quarter four would be to make sure that the beneficiaries are correct and complete on all that insurance work that you did throughout the year. So particularly for any annuities, any life insurances, any contract of insurance that has a life in being as its base, you want to make sure that the beneficiaries are correct. So if you have a trust, your trust should be there at some point. If you're married, maybe your spouse first before you add a trust. If you have a child or children, make sure they're all included. It would be so sad if a young parent passed away too soon. But even worse, if they passed away too soon, they had 4 children, and when they bought the insurance, they only had 2, and now there are 2 children that are not beneficiaries. That would be terrible. And the only reason that would happen is it was an oversight. You don't even think about it. So some of these things you don't set and forget. You want to just keep them on your radar. And if every fourth quarter you go through all of your beneficiary accounts and all of your trust and will accounts to make sure that you have the right beneficiaries in place, it's updated, it's current, you don't have like an ex-spouse still on there, something like that, this is the time to do it. So at the end of the year, wrapping up all these things, preparing for taxes, make sure you check your beneficiaries as well. And then finally, as an example, when we're looking at estate planning, one of the things that you could do there is inform any family members, and not just where the trust is, where the corporate papers are, where all that important stuff is, but make sure that they know your passwords. Make sure they know where the list of passwords is. And if you have an electronic one, those are great. But what would happen if you came home, or let's say you didn't come home one Saturday night, you had a terrible accident, you didn't come home, and your family needs to figure out how to access everything and take care of you if you're living and all of the stuff if you're not. What would they need to know? So what would they be asking you if you were in the next room? And what would they need to know if you're unable to answer for whatever reason? And also in the legal area, estate planning area, one thing that you want to consider is beneficiaries. Just like insurance, make sure the beneficiaries are correct, up to date, and accurate. And that for you is a sample of a roadmap for your new year. In putting in place the Copenbarger method, assess, balance, connect, deliver, and evaluate, this is an example of things that you can do. So you can plan your year where quarter one, you have specific activities. Quarter two, you're making progress in those same areas. Quarter three, and then wrapping up in quarter four. This is a tried and true method that will help you get organized and make progress for your financial future that you have in mind.
You know, there's quite a bit to digest with all of this, but it's incredible the way you broke it down, and it makes it so simple to follow. So folks, if you like a copy of this as well, please make sure you put it on the chat. We'd love to send you a copy of it as well, so you guys can start planning out for next year. One of the things questions that I had for you, Judy, was also, since we're starting this out right now in January, how quickly should we be gathering? How quickly should we be looking at maybe, it might be time to change, folks, to take a look at our investments. It might be time to start looking. So what are maybe some best practices briefly that you can share with us as to if we're going to make that change, it is now the right time to do it as we begin the new year?
I think it's a perfect time. This is the time of year when people are thinking about financial things anyway. If they're not normally doing it, like some people, it's not the top of their list every Saturday night to pull all their papers out. But this is the time of year where we're gathering information for our tax person to help us prepare our taxes. We're getting all of our corporate papers together. If you own a business, this is the time where you finalize everything and you make sure you have all the data that you need for a proper tax return. It's the time of year where you're getting statements in the mail from the year's end. January, February, March, you get your contribution statements from IRS. You get all your balances for the year, the gains that you had, all of that. So all of this information is coming into your household or into your business office right now. It's a great time to look at it if you're not looking regularly and assess, how are my investments doing? Last year they were this year they were this. Am I paying too much for the service? Are my investment advisors doing a good job? Am I making money? Is it tax friendly? Is it time that I take my finances to the next level and get a true planner and not just having all these pieces? Is it time to aggregate them into one specific plan that is coordinated and collaborative? If it's time for that, then you can look for the right person. And that's quarter one's goal, right? In some of these areas, find the right person or the right firm or company to help you. It's a perfect time. Great question.
Yeah. Well, folks, thank you guys for joining us. If you're just, I see that we have some folks that are just getting to the tail end of our show. Please watch the show from the beginning. It'll show you the roadmap for your new year. Judy went through, the financial pillars as well as the 4 quarters that you need to plan ahead. Make sure you stay ahead of the game and not, play catch up, as a lot of folks tend to do, because they don't know any better, right? So with that said, I know that we're getting towards the end of the show, and we have one great challenge, right? I'm dying to know about this one. It's got to be.
All right. Here's your challenge. Now that you are a perfect mastered pro at this plan, the Copenbarger method, what I'd like you to do is choose at least one area, pardon me, one area of finance that you'd like to work on. What's the one that really hurts the most or feels like it's got the biggest gap, or the one that I really want to make strides in this year? Choose that area. Maybe it's insurances, maybe it's investments, and then go through this process. Map out quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. What will I do? Just like we did in our sample, right? In the Copenbarger method here. That will create a roadmap for that area. So in our example, it could be, let's say, I feel like my life insurance needs to be updated. I don't have enough. Find the right person, find the right company, the right firm, get the application process in place, automate and make your payments simple, and make sure the beneficiaries are correct. That could be an example for you. So the thing is, you got to do it with pen and paper, right? You can't just like do it on the back, on your cell phone or on whatever technology you're using. It really helps to go from the mind through your arm, your hand down on paper. And if you grew up without doing that, I recommend that that's a skill that you put in place. If you grew up, when we grew up, that was our only option, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pen to paper. But there's something magical about having it at least scratched down on the back of a napkin or something. Then you can put it in your Excel spreadsheet or make it fancy. But there's something really helpful about a pen and paper. So choose an area, detail out your quarterly plan for this coming year, and you will be set. That's your challenge.
Excellent. You've heard it, folks. It's a Money Truth Moment Challenge. So make sure that you guys share some of these responses. And again, if you want a copy of the roadmap for your new year, please put it on the chat. We'll be more than happy to send you one out as well too. So Judy, any last parting words?
Well, this has been an amazing year, very transitional year for a lot of people. Again, we've had a couple of those. Just plan what you can to make this next year the most amazing yet. And if you put these little pieces in place in any area of life, but here we're talking about finance, but it could be anything, relationships, travel, whatever your heart's desire is, get that area of life going with a process where every quarter you're making progress toward the outcome that you want, and you'll be there. It's going to be an amazing year.
Folks, and again, make sure that you tune in. We have a lot of great things planned for 2022, so you don't want to miss it. We have great content coming up as well too. And as always, we want to thank Judy on behalf of our listeners and our viewers for all of your wisdom you shared throughout this year and this great journey that you're going to take, folks, this upcoming year too. So thank you on behalf of all of us.